A very good morning to you. This is Off the Shelf. I am David Batsoffen, and I'm joined today for the first time in the longest while by Melinda Ferguson, and we'll be talking about her involvement in Escaping the Sun, a memoir by both Peter Venison and herself. It's one of her own imprints. It's from Ride or Die Press. Melinda, good morning and welcome to you.
Hello, David. Are you
It's
well?
I am indeed. It's been a long time since you and I chatted, since you were my car reporter on a radio station many, many, many years ago.
Oh my word. And when I still lived in Joburg.
Indeed,
Yeah.
you were. Melinda, now let's just, before we talk about this book, this was the one that sort of set it all off. And Peter Venison did this alone. Then he wins an award, the World Gambling Book Awards. It's very difficult to read
Yes.
that gold on the cover. And
Yes.
then you join him in writing this Escaping the Sun, which is just as good a memoir as the first one. I have to tell you, I read it cover to cover,
Yeah.
and it's almost unputdownable because you think, all
Oh.
right, I learned everything from Sol, but no, there's
Mm.
a whole nother life here. So, what was your involvement aside from publishing the book?
Oh, well, listen, I mean, the first book, I was very involved in the editing of it as well. The first
Right.
book, Peter came to me, and Sol Kerzner, I felt was like an icon that was dying. Well, dying is the wrong word, but was
Yeah.
really needing an acclamation and acknowledgement of the amazing, crazy genius that he
Mm.
was. I mean, he had all his flaws, but boy, did he know how to make dreams come true. And so that book did incredibly well. It was my first book as an indie under Ride or Die Press. And Peter then told me he had another book, the kind of prequel sequel.
Mm.
And I'll be honest with you, he handed me 150,000 words, and I said, Peter, this is boring. It is boring. You can't expect people to read a book like this.
Yeah.
I said, I think there's appetite for your story, the backstory, the because the new book, Escaping the Sun, it also deals with Sol Kerzner because you can't not deal with Sol
No.
Kerzner in the second book. However, I thought to myself there was a gem in the 150,000 words, but it sure as hell needed a proper, not just edit, but a rewrite.
Mm.
So I said to him, listen, if you just give me this book, let me try and work some magic with it. And I landed up taking this enormous book and making it into something I thought was really readable, making short chapters. I'm the queen of short chapters. I don't think people have time to read long Dostoevsky's
No.
War and Peace. Nobody does. So my feeling was, let's get this to be a readable and a book that really shows who Peter was.
Mm.
Because Peter, he was the silent, let's call him sufferer. I think he suffered a lot under the whip of Sol. Anyone who worked for Sol Kerzner had to have hair on their teeth, as they say.
Yeah.
And Peter did an enormous amount of work, not only with Sol, but as another person completely.
Mm.
And I mean, I don't know how many people know that he was part of, like, he organized the Rebel Cricket Tour, the cricket tour that broke the sports sanctions that everybody was so upset about. Peter Venison was the main player in that whole thing when Gooch and Ian Botham and all those guys came and broke the sports boycott in South Africa. Those are just
The
the small things that I never knew.
Well, neither did I, to be honest. And I met Peter years and years ago when I did some beauty pageants, not as a participant, but as a behind the scenes
Oh,
person
you didn't
at
even do
Sun.
it. Yeah.
At Sun City. And I remember meeting him on a couple of occasions, Sol as well. But now I thought we'd got away with dealing with Sol in the early part of Escaping the Sun. But then towards
Mm,
the latter part of the book, the man reappears. You know, just
yeah.
like he came in and out of Peter's life. And
Mm,
I almost want to say he was sort of a Svengali type character. He phoned you and
yeah.
he said, "Please come back and work for me. Things will be different." And then you
Mm.
just melted, went back, and nothing was different. If anything, it
Nothing
was
was ever.
even worse.
It was like, I think it was like a kind of a little bit like an abusive marriage,
Yep.
where it was promise I'll change, and then the next thing Sol would be going off on one, and Peter, in his British kind of like withheld, emotional, kind of very sort of elegant, well mannered Peter would have
Mm.
Sol do F words in his face and screaming and shouting, spitting blue murder about something, and Peter's entire sensibility would be like, why have I done this again? I've just returned to my abusive wife. And then he would find strength to leave, and Sol would make a new dream. And the thing is, Diana says something where she says, you were never as alive as Diana's Peter's
His
wife. You were
wife, yeah.
never alive when you were working with Sol Kerzner. And she, in fact, is the one who encourages Peter to go back to Sol, because I think Sol and Diana
Mm.
actually had a very interesting. He respected her. He loved Peter's wife, and of course, every time like Sol called, they would uproot, go back to South Africa, or go to.
Yeah.
There was always this drama, but Peter loved Sol deeply,
Mm.
deeply. I really feel that, like, despite all the arguments, he knew that Sol had opened a world to him that he would never have been able to access if it wasn't for Sol
Yeah.
Kerzner.
This is the thing about Sol, is that he was able to do those things. He had vision. I mean, if you look at the Pilanesberg and Sun City,
Uh,
for somebody to walk onto a
uh,
barren piece of ground and go, I
yeah,
will recreate something that never existed, and people will believe it. If he opened
yeah,
Sun City on April Fool's Day, nobody
yeah.
would have believed that the thing was that even existed. They would have thought it had been AI'd or CAD drawn or something like that.
I mean,
But
every time
but
we go back there, we look at it in wonder. It's a
yeah,
wonder. It's a wonder of the world. The palace, the lost city. I mean, it's
yeah.
an insane project.
I remember standing on that bridge that links the main hotel or the gambling
Yeah,
part to the palace. And that bridge shake, rattles, and rolls every few minutes like there's a volcano
yeah.
about to erupt. And
I
people are
hate it.
still drawn into that. There's smoke and there's
Yeah,
noise, and everybody goes, oh, the bridge is going to collapse. Oh, come on. It's an illusion. And Sol was great at doing that. He really and truly
yeah.
was. And as you say, if it wasn't for him, the hotel industry wouldn't be where it is today. And I don't think Peter would be either. I don't think Peter would have been happy just being a sort of a general manager of a British hotel in London that was very staid and
Well,
nothing exciting ever
and he
happened.
would have stayed at the Carlton probably.
Yep.
I mean, the fact that I think it's in the first book we give a lot of details of how they meet and
Mm.
how Sol is screaming about a dress of his lover, who's
Correct.
actually Shirley, because he's still married to his wife,
Yeah.
and that her dress is shrunk, and he's screaming blue murder in the lobby, shouting about it. And Peter, in his 29-year-old wisdom, British wisdom, manages to placate Sol Kerzner, and Sol sees something in Peter that he wants. And basically, that's the beginning of
Yeah.
the long relationship they have, meeting in the lobby at the Carlton in London. And I definitely think Peter was the kind of guy who would have probably stayed there. He wasn't going to disrupt his world. He had married, he was having
Mm.
children, he needed stability. Next thing, Sol gave him this ticket to South Africa, and next thing, Peter's life changed irrevocably. And yeah, I mean, he's the only one really still alive. He's still alive in London. He still has all these memories. And I'm just so grateful that we still got a Peter Venison who can tell the Sol Kerzner story on some level,
Mm.
because I'm sure there are many people who've tried and who've wanted to.
Yeah, because coming up against the family might have been hard as to what to include and what to exclude from the book. Melinda, you were saying that this originally was 150 pages or
50,000,
150,000 words. Sorry.
150,000 words.
How do
Yeah.
you? I've always wondered, you must be almost like those editors at Reader's Digest who could do the condensed books. They'd take War and Peace and turn it into a five-page novella type of thing. How do you cut
Mm.
down 150,000 words and keep the essence of Peter's story? because that's the beauty of this. I mean, they flow. You can read one without the other, but they do work really well as a duet.
I'm so glad you say that, because that was my intention. So I would look at a chapter, and my chapters in this book are probably about 1,500 words. Peter's would be 9,000. I'd look at this chapter, go like, what is he actually trying to say?
Right.
And I do have an ability, and I don't know where it comes from, but to actually zone in and say things in a more economical way. And
Mm.
I spent a long time on the book. And David, I want to give you a bit of background. About a week before my soulmate died, who died
Yeah.
in November last year, there's a whole other story. And my new book, Swift, which I know we're not talking about, is about
It's on
my
my
15
desk
days.
currently.
Yeah. I would like to talk to you about that book because that's the book that is really close to my heart. I'm
Yeah.
launching tonight in Cape Town. But about a week before Matt died, a bird has just come into the house, by the way. There's a dove sitting
Ah,
next to me.
not a
And the
swift.
dog, yeah, no, it's a dove. It's a dove Matt and I rescued. Um, and about a week before Matt died, I finished the book. I finished
Mm.
editing Peter's book because the thing is, if that had happened earlier, I don't think this book would be existing because it was the
Right.
timing of it. I finished editing, I sent it to Peter, and Matt died. And then when I had to publish, I was in the middle of deep grief. So you can
Mm.
imagine this has been an incredibly hard time for me.
Yeah.
I don't know where I've got the strength from, and I don't know where I have the capacity from. But this book was made with a lot of pain and love, really,
Mm.
because in the end, I had to publish it during a time of grief. But then, this is the interesting thing. Sol was not a stranger to grief. And he has been, and I know I'm going to almost cry now, but Sol has been an incredible help during this time for me. I felt his spirit deep, telling me to box on. He
Mm.
keeps giving me strength. And in some strange way, I've made the most amazing connection with Sol Kerzner in my time of loss. I
Right.
know that he approves of all these books. I think he said, it's high bloody time. Why has nobody else been talking my name and singing it from the rafters? And hopefully the genre of Sol Kerzner will be opened by what I've produced, or what Peter and I've produced,
Mm.
rather, not just me. Obviously, it's been both of us. But maybe there's another whole lot of books about Sol Kerzner, which I look forward to reading, because there must be many other stories that haven't been included.
Well, Sol seemed to have a penchant, and I know I promised myself I wasn't going to use this analogy, but I have to. For meat, because there was Peter Bacon, then there was Peter Venison. It's enough already with
They
lunch
used to
menus.
call themselves the guys who belonged to a deli because it was venison, bacon, and who was the other one?
I don't know because they
I
were
think there's
both.
another.
Was there another P?
There's
Oh,
venison
hang.
and bacon.
I can't remember the third one, but it was just so
I
funny
think
that
there's another one.
it happened that way
Yeah.
because I'm sure Peter Bacon has stories as well. Um,
Peter,
and
and you know who really has the story is Annalene Creel. That's
yeah,
who
you
I'd
bet.
really love to get. I mean,
Uh,
I've been trying, but she's on an island. I don't think she's interested in dredging up the past, but I would love Annalene Creel's book to be the publisher.
Yeah, because I see she's just divested herself of all her um, uh, Miss South Africa title stuff and all those sort of things and given them to a museum. I think somewhere in the Cape recently, because she's now a tunny like me. We're of a
Well, I've
similar age, she and I.
So yeah, I mean the Annalene story. I know that Jonathan Ball tried to publish a book. That book got banned. The Alan, what was his name? The oh gosh, I've just forgotten his name. But there was a great book apparently. Well, a
Mm.
book that got relentlessly sued by Annalene and Sol.
Mm.
So the thing is, this legacy has been bursting to come out, and whether
Yeah.
Peter got it all right or not. I mean, it's memoirs. I always say, well, if the story isn't right, then tell another one. There's place
This
for everybody.
this is the thing. It's like with journalists, don't let facts get in the way of a good story. And as long as
Yes.
you've got a thread running through it that people can
Mm.
say, "Oh, I remember that," and I remember that. Oh, I didn't know that. Like the cricket tour, that caught me quite by surprise. That there was involvement in several sports. I think there was
And
tennis involved as well, and in
yeah,
boxing.
the boxing, he was Gerrie Coetzee's manager. I
Yeah.
never knew that.
I
He
remember
was
that
in, yeah.
because I didn't know that they rebranded Loftus to look like Sun City. The people will read
Yeah,
it in the
it looked
book.
like Sunset. I mean,
Yeah.
all the boxing matches, and Bob Arum and Peter
Yeah.
Venison had and then Muhammad Ali was supposed to come. I mean, they were I think for anyone who loves boxing, the boxing stories for me are really interesting because Peter becomes like a manager of these big world title boxers. And also work with the charities with the Prince, with the Duke of Edinburgh, the
Yeah.
Queen's husband. I mean,
Yeah.
Peter Victorian order. He he got his not knighthood. So I mean, Rod Stewart. Also, that story that Rod
That
Stewart
that
got
is
his knighthood when the
don't
same time.
spoil it for the readers because that story is
Okay,
really really fun. Um, because they were
yeah,
Stewart got his knight Rod Stewart got his knighthood and Peter got a CBE, I think, if I remember.
Victorian order.
Victoria, one of those. But
Yeah,
he's so, I don't want to say lackadaisical about mentioning them, but he just weaves them, or you weave them into the story that we get to read in the book. And there's no, oh, look at me. I went to
no,
Buck House to go and
no,
have a meal
back. Yeah.
and get touched by a sword type of thing. He underplays his role in all of
And
this.
that's why he was such a good support for Sol,
Yeah.
because he didn't want the sun. Sol wanted the light of the sun. Sol's like me, egotist. Let's get all the praise. I'm a Leo. I don't know what Sol was, but he definitely had like the exhibitionist. He loved it, and
Yeah.
Peter was just very content to be in the background, and that's
Mm.
why he was a good partner for Sol. But even when he actually was on his own and he did amazing things, he never bragged about that stuff. He literally, as you said, he said it kind of by the way, and then I was at
Yeah.
Buckingham and then this. And I mean, yeah, Armani as well. We won't talk about Armani, but like there's a fantastic part about Armani in the book as well. So the book becomes like much more than just the old Peter we know from Sol Kerzner.
Mm.
I felt like had done enough in his life to warrant
Yeah.
his own memoir.
Well, that's why when I was given Sol to read, a friend of mine just said to me, I didn't even know about the book, which is unusual for
Yeah.
me. And a mate gave me this book and he said, read it, I think you'll like it. And I was on a road trip and in
Mm.
several game lodges by myself doing work. So I started to read it and then I just gobbled the book up. I literally could
Oh,
not put it down.
yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
more than just a memoir. So when I knew that, because you'd mentioned it to me, that
Mm.
Escaping the Sun was coming out, I couldn't wait to read
Mm.
that. But one of two things could have
Oh.
happened. Either this could have been a horrible mess, in inverted commas, and
Mm.
it could have just been, it could have gone into the shade rather than into the sun, if you get
Yes.
the drift there. But it
Find
didn't.
the shade.
It found its own sun, and the stories
Mm.
in it. As I said earlier, you don't need to read the Soul book if you don't want to, because this is standalone. But now, what I want to ask is, you cut it down from 150,000 words, so you've probably got 60,000 words rolling around somewhere. Might there be another short book?
No, not from that book because it's basically the same story, but I've just told Peter had a long-winded way of telling things. He would talk
Yeah.
about 2 pages and I made it a paragraph. I said, I'm butchering you, Peter. You just got to understand the venison is being butchered. And basically, he just went with me. He had no ego. I mean, I have to say this for Peter. He's been the easiest writer that I've ever worked with.
Right.
I took his words, disseminated. I took things I just slashed and burnt. And he went, oh my word, this reads really well. He kept saying, I trust you, you do what you need to do. Because I think like at this age, at this stage of his life,
Mm.
his wife is very ill. Diana is not well. She's older than him. They are living, as you see, the last pages of the book are sad.
They are
I mean, it's
indeed.
about a man looking back. There's
Yeah.
something a lot of pathos in there, and there's not a regretful feel, but there's a sense of my time is coming to its end.
Well,
And so I know Peter's another story. He come up with something else. You know, he's got an amazing mind.
he does have an
5-year-old. I said he was 90. He actually,
No, he's not. Diana, I
yeah.
think, is
I
90.
did a
He's
bit of
late
media.
80s.
Yeah, he's 86 and
Yeah.
Anna is 92. But in all the publicity when we won this World Gambling Book Award, which was kind of a strange thing to
I
happen,
want to
but
ask you about that because, I mean,
yeah,
that's a very niche market. That's like going to a music award and they have a music category for left-handed
yeah.
guitarists who only record on a Tuesday between 9 and 10.
Okay, not as bad as that, but kind of. Yeah. I mean, I've never heard of the Gambling Book Awards, and it was
Right.
an inaugural. It was the
Yeah.
first time, and one of the organizers reached out to me because he found the book on Amazon,
Right.
Sol, and he said, "You know, we're running this competition, and your book would fit completely into it. Would you enter it?" And I was like, "What rubbish is this?" Like I said, "How much does it cost?" Because I thought it was one of those. He
Yeah.
said, "No, no, cost anything, but we need 10 copies sent to Wales."
Mm.
And I've been into Postnet and found out how much because I've sent Peter books.
Yeah.
I was like, 10 copies, it's going to cost about 6,000 Rand for me to send.
Mm.
And then you know what? Sol went, stop being so tight. Go and send them. Sol
Yeah.
told me, go send my books. So I listened to Sol Kerzner. I know it's very strange, but Sol and I have a lot of conversations. And he told me basically go and do it and it's worth it. And it was a risk. And I've learned a lot about gambling from Sol Kerzner and Peter because they were
Yeah.
both gamblers in terms of the dreams what they created. And I think that one of the things that I realized once I'd sent the book was money's money.
Yeah.
It's gone. So let's hand it over and let's go. And then he was shortlisted and then flown to Barcelona, where there was a world casino. The industry of the entire planet came together in and Peter was there and he won the award and it was a huge event. And I slapped that on the front, on the cover of the new book because
Why
it's
not?
true. And if anyone asks what are these awards, they can Google them.
They can,
Yeah.
because I did, and it came with money, which is nice because a lot of awards nowadays come with nothing. It's just a
He won
sticker that you can put on a book
£7,000.
on a yeah or a website, which is of no use to
Yes.
anybody.
He got a free trip to Barcelona and he won £7,000, which was rather nice for him, I
In,
thought.
indeed, it is. Melinda, we're coming to the end of our time. This
And,
is what happens.
oh,
Sorry?
okay, we're running out of.
No, no, no,
No,
no.
he did offer me prize money, which helped, which will
Ah,
send his next books to England. They'll pay for the next lot.
that's fair enough. Where is the book currently available? The book that we're talking about is Escape the Sun. It's published by Melinda Ferguson Books and it's Ride or Die Press.
So it's available at all exclusives. I've seen them there. A lot of them are in the front of the shop. It's also
Right.
available on Take a Lot. It's available at certain bargain books, at Wordsworth, at all those usual, at Love Books, in Joburg. It's available, in smaller numbers at the indies, but at exclusive books, it's available. And then, of course, it's available on Amazon as an
Mhm.
ebook all over the world.
Right.
I am planning to make it into a print on demand book on Amazon, but I just need a bit of time to sort a few things out.
Fair enough. Melinda, thank you so much for chatting with me about Escaping the Sun. And in a few weeks' time, you and I are going to be chatting about Swift. And I'm really
Okay,
looking
you
forward
can
to
take this
that.
out, and you'll be crying a lot in the next interview, but let's maybe not. But thank you for your time. Thanks for your support and your beautiful things that you've said about this book.
Only a pleasure. Off the Shelf has been chatting with Melinda Ferguson from Melinda Ferguson Publishers. And this particular book, Escaping the Sun, is published by one of her imprints. It's called Ride or Die Press. I'm David Batsoff, and she's Melinda. To those of you who have watched today, thank you very much for joining. And until the next time, bye from me.